Hello and welcome to the Red Devils Advocate. This is the official podcast of the Miami Red Devils Supporters Club. I'm Adam. I am joined, as always, by the president of the Red Devils, the Miami Red Devils, that is Carter. President Carter, how we doing?
Been better after this game, but whatever. Breathing.
Yeah. I think that's fair. I feel like I'm a little bit more upbeat, but that is also my general personality. So let's get right into it. Manchester United fall to Arsenal away. I was sure that we won the match 2-1, but it turned out we ended up losing the match 3-1. Not sure exactly how that happened. You told us already that you've been better. You got anything else on your general thoughts about this one?
It was heartbreaking, right? They had an immediate great goal from Rashford, immediate leveler, so that takes the win out of our sails. We thought we won the game, called back for offside, one of those like microscopic offsides, and they showed us a weird angle. I didn't love that. And then we just threw the game away, 2 goals at the end. And, it's not like Arsenal played bad, but I still think that we deserved at least a point from the game, with those kind of the way it ended. And, and I have my opinions about how we let some of the goals in. So,
yeah, and I'm sure we're going to get to that. Yeah, I think that's all fair. I agree. We deserved at least a point from that one. This sport that we love does this to us, and so someone might question why we love this sport so much if you have a situation where you kind of you're almost, we were up 2-1 for a portion of this match, and like I said, we ended up losing 3-1, and and we were also up 1-0. And we probably didn't deserve to be up 1-0. We were playing bad, and we scored a goal against the run of play. Our joy lasted for about 2 minutes of actual time and maybe 20 seconds of game time because Arsenal equalized immediately after we scored, which Manchester United leads the world in conceding a goal right after scoring a go-ahead goal. But I think there were a lot of positives to take away from this match, and then the other thing about it is Manchester United is just like always a news like mess. There's always like crazy stuff going on.
Yeah.
And it's, we always talk, we're the biggest club in the world and everybody cares about us. Everyone talks about us, but there's drawbacks to, us saying like how big and great we are because everyone's talking about everything all the time. And there are big stories and they become international news that one player is like not that happy. So,
yeah.
And
it's even like part of it is like club culture, right? Like back we had like Ferguson that we would look back on and like how he handled the locker room, and then we have like other good teams like Bayern or City, and like how many times did we hear that Riyad Mahrez was like kind of unhappy just sitting on the bench? Almost never. Like
never.
People like assume they're like he's probably not happy sitting on the bench after like this big move, but it's not like he's just like, oh, whatever, next guy up. If he's unhappy, like that's how Pep does things. And with us, it's just like, I don't know what happened over the course of like the last 10 yeyears where our players are just like so entitled. And like, I get it. Like, it's not not the 80s. Like, I'm not Roy Keane. Like, players can demand to be treated with respect. But this is like, it's just like petulant children. Right. Every week, and it's insane. And then of course they tell somebody, and then it's the biggest, the news breaks, and it just makes everybody's job harder. Yeah, it's not our job. It gets us stuff to hobby gives us stuff to talk about, but
yeah, it keeps us employed where we make $0. I just think it's just kind of funny. Like every team has this stuff. Every team does good transfer business, bad transfer business. Some teams like City do like a lot of good transfer business. They also cheat a lot. They violate financial fair play. They launder money from their Middle East benefactors. But nobody else talks about, like the Glazers I like starting the podcast with just a general gripe session. So the Glazers selling the club has been like worldwide news at like every time there's a leak from Qatar, every time there's something with the Rain Group, every time there's something with Ineos, anytime there's like someone near the Glazer, there's a whole story, and then the internet goes crazy. Manchester City is literally under investigation. They've been charged by the FA for 115 violations of financial fair play dating back 10 years. 10 years, by the way, where they went from having zero revenue to reporting record revenue despite having an empty stadium. And in those years, how many times did they win the Premier League? And they won the treble last. These are all direct consequences from their blatant cheating by violating financial fair play rules. I can't understand for the life of me. I like looked on Twitter just because I thought I was going crazy this morning. But like, what was the latest story on an update on a leak from the FA, on a leak from Manchester City's legal team? Nothing. There's no news about any of this.
No one cares.
Except for me. I'm the only one that cares. Yeah. So also, I want them to be knocked down. I want them to actually be punished. And I might have bet for Manchester City to get relegated this season, 500-1 odds. So that'd be really nice. Also, for me and my friends who put up $5 bill on that one. So all right, let's get into the match. Let's start with the lineups. I think we were both happy and expected the lineups. Obviously, we had the big man in Onana, Wan-Bissaka on the right, Martinez and Lindelof coming in for the injured Varane in center defense. Left back was a natural right back, Diogo Dalot, Casemiro at 6, Eriksen and Bruno in the midfield, Antony on the right, Rashford on the left, and then Martial getting the nod up top. Højlund started on the bench, as well as Reguilon, who's our recent signing, and we can talk about a little in our transfer section. Sofiane Amrabat, our new midfielder from Fiorentina, was not registered in time on Friday to be part of the match day squad. Might have come on Ten Hag's crazy, but might have started if he had been registered in time. But we can get into that a little bit. What did you think of this lineup as you first saw it and as these guys came on?
It is basically what I predicted in my little Manchester United app. I just don't like, and it's not his fault, but I do not like Dalot playing on the left. Like, it's just like, I don't know. It's good. He's not natural. He doesn't seem comfortable. Kind of like Rashford playing down the middle. Like, it's not their fault. It's just that's just not the position they play, and they've been forced there.
Yeah.
Because of injuries and stuff. And I assumed that Antony would start. Wasn't super happy that he started. But I just assumed that he would. So, but otherwise, I think this is the lineup right now. With Højlund finding fitness and all of our injured players, that I think it's like the best possible lineup, probably.
Yeah,
because of all the injuries.
Yeah, and the injuries, like, everybody complains about injuries, but our injuries are really annoying, and especially annoying for the midfield. We went from having a very good midfield last year to recognize, Ten Hag smartly recognized that we needed help in the midfield. So he targeted a few players. Mason Mount was his favorite, right? And then and Kobe Mainu was his new favorite from the academy, who is going to clearly play a large role in the club. And he also he began targeting other midfielders, like we brought on Sofiane Amrabat from Fiorentina, because he wanted to add depth and strength in the midfield, and kept Scott McTominay for that matter. What happens? Mason Mount injured immediately, out a couple months. Kobe Mainu injured immediately, out like 3-4 months. And so and these were going to be two guys that were going to start. Like, Mason Mount was going to start every game. Kobe Mainu was going to start, a third of the games, maybe more, based on his performance. He's a young kid. And so it's just like, it's really kill. And obviously we lose Luke Shaw at left back. Martinez is hurt. He's playing with an injury. He went off in this match late.
So
Varane
that's great.
Is hurt. And so, we don't have enough facts to do the like, whose fault is it that these players are getting hurt? Are they being overtrained? Was it because they came to the United States, which I think is silly? People don't get hurt getting on planes and whatnot. So I don't know what people are talking about, but obviously it happens more to some teams and less to other teams based on strokes of luck. And it's just like the silliest thing ever that Martial is like the only healthy player on our team and everyone else is hurt. But yeah, like you said, it's a good point. But it's a good point that players are playing out of position just because we're hurt.
Like it's hard to blame somebody when they're they're not fighting to play in this position. They're not choosing to. It's just like you want them to play better, of course. I'm like irritated to low when he makes a mistake, but I can't be like constantly angry at him for like not playing well in his not in like his and like it's so uncomfortable to like switch sides like that, especially when it's like
it must be
your whole career, like especially with defenders, like the way that the way that they talk about like where they place their strong foot and like their tackling foot and like how uncomfortable it makes them to have to do that on the other side.
It's true.
That's why it's like everybody's obsessed with like the left-footed center back playing on the certain side. It's like I think that part of it is like nonsense, but because of the way that people are like so fluid. But it's I don't know. The lineup was it was as good as it could be. I think.
Right. And then I guess and we'll talk more about Zalo, but he made a lot of mistakes. We were really complaining about it, especially in the first half, but he did kind of delete Saka for most of the match. Mm-hmm. So I thought Saka's like very, and we can talk about Arsenal's lineup. This is like it's just like a really solid team, and they have less injuries, and they are able, they have Ramsdale and David Raya. They've got two good keepers. We have one good keeper. I don't know anything about Bayindir. But we just got in as our backup, so remains to be seen. But like their subs are Gabriel Jesus, Smith Rowe, Tomiyasu, Trossard, Jorginho, Fabio Vieira. Like
I forgot that Jorginho was even on the team until I saw him on the field. I was like, what? Like
And he like and so they've got just like a much, and this is what we talked about last time last podcast in the preview. They're just like a fuller. They're 1 year further into the rebuild than we are. So I don't know, annoying. All right, underway. And we looked pretty. It looked pretty rough. We were playing lots of defense when we got the ball. Onana tried to build out of the back. The midfield couldn't hang on to the ball, right? And then Onana started just going long for a while, and we like had no possession in the first half. I don't want to look up the stats, but like we like couldn't control the ball, and we were kind of penned in. Yeah.
I mean, it's this thing. I was watching some other game. I think I was watching maybe the Liverpool game before, and it's this thing that people talk like. People are like, oh well, like the goalkeepers who play with their, and of course it is true. Like the goalkeepers who play with their feet. They'll they add something and they keep possession in the back, but then this thing that also happens is that they let the goalkeeper have it, then he passes to a center back and they close on the center back and the center back kicks it long, which is the same thing that the goalkeeper would have done anyway. Like it's just like I think it's funny sometimes, like when you, because like we were doing that, like we kept the ball in like mostly more dangerous areas for ourselves and then sent the ball up like because it was too scary because we can't hold on to the ball.
And like so I think if you do go back and look at the stats, we like actually held some possession in the first half. We were like held decent possession, but it was all in our defensive third. We couldn't get the ball into the final third. So if you look at final third possession, if anyone cares about any of this, if you look at final third possession, so like where you're attacking, Arsenal just dominated us in final third possession, and that is on, this is what happens. Like we had a honeymoon period with Ten Hag, and even though I'm a stan, even though he's right over my shoulder on the scarf right there, he's my guy. I'm going to point out when I think he makes mistakes. And so Pep talks about this. It is the manager's responsibility to set up your players in such a way that you are getting the ball to the final third, and then it's the player's responsibility to score. It's on the players. So it's kind of managers to get the ball from your own net to the final third of the pitch, and then it's the player's responsibility to score. Ten Hag figured it out in this match, but the first half was like not. And you can also blame the midfield for kind of not being. But this isn't. This was. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was to say like Ericsson like I think Ericsson played okay. Casemiro had another 50-50 game where he did a lot of stuff that wasn't great, and then he made some important plays. But it feels like we're the only midfield that can't do it. Like I've watched like little like small fish teams play, and they are midfields can figure out like, all right, this is how I make myself available. This is how I do a one-touch pass like around the corner
Yeah.
so that it completely kills the press. Like we're like the only team that can't figure it out. It's so frustrating.
So our players, and I love our players. I feel like every time I talk about
Mm.
them, because I'm just thinking about the internet trolls. Every time I criticize our players, I like hate doing it, so I always have to do a disclaimer. I'll stop doing that. But our players are not press resistant, and
Mm.
you know what that you know what this means. But what that means
Yeah.
for people out there is that the way that modern teams are playing the sport is they are pressing and they're building out of a press. So when they have possession, they're trying to build from the back out of a press. What that does ideally is it gets players out of it gets the defense kind of pushed forward so that you can attack and there's more space on the pitch for you to find lanes to score goals. And so, but what that means though is you need players that can hold possession, especially midfielders that can hold possession and make good passes that keep the ball. You can't have Bruno, Ericsson, and Casemiro, who are all not press resistant. They don't hold the ball, they don't dribble the ball, they don't like move the ball up the pitch with their feet, and they all try and play through balls. They're great at it.
Mm.
Casemiro is such a good passer,
Mm-hmm.
and he's brave with it. He's like, but it's him, Bruno, and Ericsson are all like very brave passers, and they're good at it. So they do it a lot. They don't advance the ball with their feet. And you think about like the guys that Ten Hag really wanted. Especially Frankie De Jong. Like he's a guy that is able to pass. He's a good passer, but he also dribbles and keeps possession. He's like the most press
Mm-hmm.
resistant midfielder. And so it's almost like you can't really play if you're gonna have those guys, you can't play that. Kobe Mainu is a really press resistant
Mm-hmm.
midfielder. He's such an athletic dribbler, and I think that's another thing that we
Mm-hmm.
talk about, that Ten Hag might need to change his tactics if he doesn't
Yeah.
have the players available that are going to fit his style of play.
Yeah. And it's like it's just so frustrating. And like even someone who's improved at it is like Wambasaka's improved at it. When the ball gets worked to the right, he can find a way out of trouble. And that's the thing is like
Yeah,
you're put if you're out there and you need like an example, at least in current run of form, of someone who's like doing this like amazingly, is just like watching James Madison play when he gets
yeah.
pressed and everybody's pressed high. They did it to us. Everybody's pressed high. He gets the ball. He figures out where the defenders. He turns. That turn is like that's a hard thing to do, and it's like scary. If they win the ball, boom, counterattack. We did it to them. But when he turns, if he gets by that one pressing midfielder, now there's 50 yards of space like that he runs and he picks out players, and like he's the best at it right now. He's like in the Premier League. The way that he's turning and finding space when teams press Tottenham, it's like that's like the perfect example of the player that like right now that we don't have to break the press and be like and keep possession and find ourselves in good spaces. We're finding ourselves in good spaces. We're still creating chances, but not usually through that type of play, and that's not what Ten Hag seems to
I agree.
want.
I agree 100%. Like, so this midfield, I think you can't play this midfield and play like the possession, tiki taka, whatever you want to go,
Mm.
total football, whatever. You can't play like a break the press possession game with these three players in the midfield. Some combination of Kobe Mainu, Mason Mount is press resistant. He's solid. Like you can't have three guys that are all trying to like pick out the long pass to a winger, or
Mm.
and theoretically a striker, now that we have an athletic striker on the team. So for the time being, if these are the only guys healthy, you gotta like give it to Onana, let him play it deep to the wingers, or try and like at least do a mid-range pass. But yeah, that first half was like pretty rough as far as just defending, but it's kind of something to be expected now from Manchester United going away to the bigger. I mean, it's a thing. It is a thing
Yeah.
now. Like we talked about it as like a lame trend, but like it is a thing now, right? Where Ten
Mm.
Hag Ten Hag's teams aren't performing on the road against top 10 clubs.
Yeah, and listen, I am like the biggest counterattack defender in the world. I think the counterattack can be really, really good, especially if you have players like us, like our players who are really good at it. Because the idea of like stoking a pressure means you're defending well. Really. So it's like I think that counterattack is like way too much hate if you can do it really, really well, where like you're defensively solid and you're not giving up points. But it's it's if we're going to concede bad goals, then it doesn't matter. And it's like, and I think that a few of these goals were not. They were stoppable. They were avoidable.
So we were pretty penned in. Throughout the first half, 13 minutes. Kai Havertz, I like don't know how he didn't score. He had a clear opportunity to score
because he's awful.
Yeah, like, I mean, maybe that's the answer.
Somebody was like, "Oh, like this doesn't." Like, it was like about the Cucurella stuff, and I was like, "They're like, just because he was bad at Chelsea doesn't mean he's bad." And I'm like, "They're like, this doesn't happen." And I'm like, "It actually happens all the time." Like Kai Havertz was bad at Chelsea, and then they were like, "But he can't be that bad," and they got him. He's been awful at Arsenal, and like, I don't know, like it's sometimes players are just not as good as we thought they were, and that's okay.
And hopefully the same isn't true for Mason Mount, who's another one who had a bad season at Chelsea, and there's concern that but they're different players. Mason Mount, we'll talk about Mason Mount another time, but they're different players. But there is that concern. So Kai Havertz misses an absolute sitter. Martina, Lindelof looked pretty shaky this game. He looked a little bit off the pace. Arsenal's good, so they're going to make and they're fast up front, so they're going to make the center backs look bad. Martinez did. I remember him kicking away the opportunity, and like we said, he's playing a little bit hurt. So that was what did I say? 13-minute for that one, and then. And then, a lot of being penned in. 14th minute, another situation with Martinelli producing, but pretty much against the run of play. I think you're going to hear it. But at the 27th minute, we got a little break in the game for Manchester United.
And again, with 3 ahead of him this time. And he's enlisted Rashford. Manchester United on a rare break. Rashford with an angle, and Rashford with the opening goal. Entirely against the run of the play. Arsenal have just had their pocket picked.
Well, this first half, up to this point, is all about the quality of finish, or lack thereof, in Arsenal's case. They've had 2 good chances, and then there's a mistake here as the ball's softly played, I think, by Martinelli across the pitch. Game opens up nicely for Eriksen. It's a lovely ball into the path of Rashford, and he does brilliantly from that angle.
All right, so, yeah. Defending, the ball springs out to the midfield. Eriksen picks up the ball, couple dribbles, and then just a beautiful through ball to Rashford. Rashford cuts in, big strike with his right. It was going in no matter what, but Ramsdale got a little bit of a finger on it. It deflected slightly, but was going in no matter what. Just kind of a beautiful goal and a great 30 seconds for us.
Yeah. That's that's kind of what we. Right, we're just talking about the counterattack, and like that's what we do well, through ball, into Rashford, clinical finish. I was impressed that Ramsdale got there at all. I thought that it was gonna go off his fingers, hit the post, and come out. But yeah, it was and it was out of nowhere. You're the commentators like totally shocked by it, but didn't last very long.
Yeah. So, I think it lasted about 30 seconds in game time, like maybe 8 seconds in game time, but it was like, I think it was 2 minutes in actual time, and immediately we conceded a goal Odegaard is just really solid, and he's like really
Mhm.
dangerous if he's got a little bit of space from 23 yards and in. And I'm not gonna play. I don't play opposing team audio, but yeah, like they're fast, and Nketiah is fast. Martinelli's fast. Odegaard is great. He's not as good as Bruno, but he's like right up there with
Mhm.
among the best, I think, in the Premier League.
Yeah.
And immediately, and like Martinelli's good. I think Wan-Bissaka had a better offensive game
Mhm.
in the second half than a defensive game, but it's hard to compare because Martinelli is a great left winger,
Yeah.
and he's
He's
really
really
fast.
he's really growing into like a really good player.
Yeah, and he's
Uh
very young.
yeah,
He's a very young man.
he's an animal, dude. He's clever. Like he's a clever player, which I love, especially for a winger.
Yeah. And you see Wan-Bissaka he like wouldn't take the chances that he would take with other players.
Yeah.
He'll go out farther on other left wingers that he thinks he can control, especially against, I'm thinking, against Wolves, against Forest. He was like playing much farther out, picking up the defender. But here he had to like sit back because Martinelli is very clever, very fast, and it was a hard
Yeah.
responsibility. So we go into halftime. I think feeling okay, right? I remember like
I mean, I was irritated. I was irritated by this goal because like I think this is the one that I think that Onana should have saved, right? Where
well,
or
you
is that
definitely thought
is
the
it,
second one was.
yeah, okay,
I think the second, yeah, it was the second one
Okay.
that we were kind of arguing about it.
Okay.
I think I was just defending Onana.
Mhm.
But this one went in the bottom corner, and like through a sea of people. I
Oh
remember.
yeah. Never
So I'm
mind.
like,
Yeah, I do mean the second goal.
yeah. Um. All right. So going to halftime 1-1. Um. I was hoping kind of for a change at this point. Did you think that it's rare to see halftime changes, especially
Yeah.
for Ten Hag, unless there's an
Um.
injury? Did you think that there should have been a change at halftime?
Uh. I
I mean,
mean,
there's not many to put on.
I thought that the Anthony could have come out, but
It's just hard.
it's like who do
And
you replace him with
who
right
do you
now?
replace him
Sancho.
with?
Apparently, Sancho has all these problems.
Well, he wasn't even in the squad.
Oh, he was in the score. I
Yeah.
haven't been checking
Yeah,
the
so he
substitute list as
he
much.
wasn't on the bench, and
But we
we'll
have,
get
but we
into
have,
that.
we still have. I mean, he's Palestri's on the bench, right?
Yeah, Palistri's was on the
It's
bench.
like it's one of those things where it's like this is different than Van de Beek, right? He did the same thing with Van de Beek, where like nobody wanted him, nobody wants to play him, and we're like, well, why is he on the team? Or like, why is he in the squad? But we've seen, like, we never saw Van de Beek play well. We've seen
yeah.
Palestri play well, so it's so
I know. But
frustrating.
they
And of
have
course,
all
the coach,
been in like 10-minute spurts, but you're right.
Mhm.
Like because Pulisic will come on at 75 minutes, 80
Yeah.
minutes every so often, and he's so fast and like clever and
Yeah.
plays good passes, keeps possession. Yeah, but you're right. I guess the one thing that we saw with Antony is he plays tons of defense. He works hard.
Mhm.
He
Yeah.
tracks back. He's a dog. And
Mhm.
so like he's a fighter. So I think that Ten Hag likes that personality in
Mhm.
in the squad. And so I guess the defense, especially in a game where you imagine you're defending so much, like I guess it makes sense to have like a physical right winger. But in attack, and certainly when we were out of possession, we were Ten Hag was moving the guys around, or they were being instructed to move around like crazy. There were times where Martial was playing as a 10 and Bruno was playing like basically Bruno was like the lead on the press, so he's playing almost like in a false 9 role. Martial was playing at best false 9, not playing striker at all. And there were times where Bruno was on the right and Antony was in the middle playing like a striker role. Just like kind of weird stuff that underlines that we need a striker in the team,
Yeah. And it's always been, we've talked about Martial and the way he plays when he's up top, like to death at this point. But it's just like he doesn't get in behind. He doesn't, he doesn't do the things that we want from our strikers. Like his hold up play can be good, but it can also be. This is why I don't like those next. Like this is like an eye test one, but like a lot of times when he has his back to goal, he does miss a good amount of link up passes, and like not all the time. Sometimes he's really good at it, but it happens more often than it should, where he's got like a 2-foot pass and it's off to I don't know. Like, and again, like I feel like if he could have played every game for, like more than that 1 year, then he'd probably be a lot in better shape and than he is all the time now, because he's never playing, because he doesn't get to train as much, he gets to play them as much. But yeah, I'm glad that Hoyland got to play, because we need just to see something else. Like it's like at this point, I just want to see it. Like I don't really. He could be garbage, and I still be like, well, at least I got to see somebody else play striker. Like,
so we came out in the second half, I thought, pretty good. I think this was one of. I think we had a really good, I think we actually had a really good like 90 minutes against Nottingham Forest, but that's Nottingham Forest at home. And, it was after we conceded 2 goals. But this was kind of one of the better 45s, I think, that we've had this season. Now that I'm thinking about it, maybe the best 45 we've had this season. We played a good first 45 against Tottenham away, but I thought we played really well. We almost scored in the 55th minute. And then right after that, Kai Havertz was in the box attacking, and it looked like Casemiro and Wan-Bissaka completely like wiped him out. Kai Havertz went to ground, called a penalty on the pitch. VAR reviewed it. And when we started looking at the angles, how much do you think Kai Havertz was touched on a scale of 0 to 100?
1.
I think 0. I think there was no
like
contact.
he got touched when he was going, like literally they touched him once as he was already falling. It was a dive. He dived. Like
I think it looked like the Matrix, like when he's dodging the bullets. That was Casemiro like not making contact with Kai Havertz. And
despite Kai Havertz trying so hard to make it happen.
It's because, and he's trying. They do this and they try to make it happen. And if there was any contact, they probably wouldn't have even sent him to the monitor. So this is the good thing about VAR, and we're going to get into it a little bit, I'm sure, soon, but I want to reiterate that the problem with VAR isn't the system. It's not replay. It's the same dummies that are officiating on the pitch are the dummies that are officiating the match in front of the monitors.
Which is crazy. It's crazy that there's that they don't have like, this is your job.
Yeah.
Your job is to interpret the video stuff and talk to the referee. It's crazy.
It's an insane thing.
Friends up in the box.
Like, and so, insane. We haven't talked about this on this podcast. So I think it's a good time to bring it up. And this point that you just brought up, Carter, that the same old men you see, bald old men officiating these matches, rotate in and out of the different positions, including, these are the referees, including the VAR, which stands for video assistant referee. And so they are all like kind of buddies. And Mike Dean, who just retired and is now commenting for Sky Sports, I think, he basically said there was a match where he was the VAR official and his referee was a friend of his, made a mistake on the pitch, and he didn't send him to the monitor because he was ready. The official was already having a bad game, so he didn't want to like undermine his friend, even though he had made another mistake. And that's like, I can't believe someone said that out loud, because that's what everybody has been like saying and been called crackpot conspiracy theorists, because by me too. It's like, no, an official is not going to not going to like overprotect a friend when it's going to cost a goal. They're not going to make a wrong decision knowing that it's the wrong decision just to like, be buddies with their friend who's officiating the game. And that's exactly what Mike Dean said he did.
Yeah. And of course it's Mike Dean. And like everybody already thinks that Mike Dean was like on our side for like his entire career. But like Mike, like you think like, right, like when you're watching a game and you're like so angry at a referee, you're thinking like, oh, like maybe I should chill out. There's no way they can actually be this incompetent. Like they're just a person making a mistake. And then you hear people like Mike Dean talking. You're like, no, they are horrible. They are like total idiots. They are like, they're like, again, and we talked a little bit before about how like refereeing in England works, and like why it's the same like 8 dudes you always see, because like they get abused. Like they do what like soccer players do. They go like they start when they're kids, or they can start with their kids, and there's like they have to wear special uniforms, or they eventually had to wear special uniforms because they had to tell parents at these games like, hey, this is a child that you're screaming at.
Yeah.
So a lot of kids quit because it's awful because
there's
you're
not
screamed at by adults.
There's not a huge talent pool in the world for officials, and there is for the players, right? That like every kid grows up wanting to be a soccer player. No kids grow up wanting to be an official. So you end up with like the most obnoxious kids that end up being officials.
And then of course if they don't quit, they come out with like this huge chip on their shoulder, which is like understandable because if you get screamed at that much when you're like a kid, but that's how you end up with these like arrogant morons that are just like,
it's a very absolutely.
And I like I don't think that I don't like advocate for referee like abuse at all, but like what happened to Anthony Taylor is like not okay. Like I was on the side of like, don't let Mourinho like on the touchline for like a year. Like I was like very
well. You also hate Jose Mourinho.
I do hate Jose Mourinho, but if there's somebody else had done something the same thing, I mean, we see the other coaches in the Premier League do it all the time, and it's like.
And the players.
It's just like it's not and the players. It's like it's not okay. That's why I like these. That's why I like the new like enforcement of like how you talk to referees and how you like time wasting and all that. I like that. But I still think that they're bad at their jobs. Like
well, and you brought up a good point, which is it's not exactly just referee bashing, which is that the guys that are doing the VAR, like they might have they're the same guys that officiate the game. So like you might officiate a game, you might be the referee on Saturday, and then you're the VAR referee on Sunday. And that shouldn't be the case. Like American sports have been doing replay for many years now. Like baseball was the last one to get into it, but they have the system down where they're not even on site. It's the same people that are kind of doing like a lot of the games, and it takes a little longer maybe, but it's much better and much more accurate in my opinion. Like the NFL replay I think is much better than VAR because at least it's consistent. And there are arguments over whatever pass interference, blah blah blah. We don't have to get in NFL, but they've had a lot more years figured out. VAR is relatively earlier. So getting into VAR. Man, I don't really know what to say about it, but Garnacho comes on. Let's see when he came on. He came on at, it's hard to read this. So he came on for Antony, right? And went to the left, and Rashford went to the right. Do I have that right?
I don't really remember, to be honest. I was kind of in a blur when we were watching it live.
I think that happened, and then Martinez got hurt. I'm just trying to remember when.
Yeah, Martinez got hurt like right after the penalty, or like pretty close after the VAR decision.
And so
Harry Maguire comes in.
Yeah, and I think he's playing with an injury is part of it too. I think that that he's like playing hurt. Man, I wish I was better at controlling this so I could kind of see what was actually going on. Let's see. All right, finally did it. So Højlund comes on for let's see. Martinez got 65 minutes. Okay, hold on. I'll be better at this. Here we go. So Højlund comes on for Martial, and Harry Maguire came on for Lisandro Martinez, both on the 67th minute. And now that we're here, let's talk about Højlund for a second. What did you think seeing Højlund out there for Martial comes right in at striker for us?
I mean, I was glad to see him play. I really, really need to see him start a game because I don't know if I just wasn't paying attention with the new numbers because I was kind of like all over the place. But he didn't look. I don't remember him really offering us much, but it's his first game off the bench against a really, really, really good team. But I was happy to see him out there, but I just don't think that he offers very much in this particular game with like at this time and like how the game ended and everything. So
Yeah, so I thought he was like, I mean, really good for just a little
mhm,
bit of time. He didn't have a bunch of time on the ball.
mhm,
But it was just like fun seeing him out there. He's big,
mhm.
he's fast. He's wearing number 11, Greenwood's old number. And Garnacho moves up to 17, which was Fred's old number. In case anyone cares about this stuff, Regulon's wearing 15, Sabitzer's number. So if you see him out there, yeah, Martinez is hurt. He was not wearing a protective boot after the match or anything, and he is going to, he got called up for the Argentinian national team, so he is going to Argentina. Harry Maguire came on for him, jeered by like some of our fans, even the ones that were at the bar. We sang the Harry Maguire song because it's
Yeah.
fun to sing, and got to support the lad. I don't think he looked horrible, but obviously you can't like close out a game if your center backs are Harry Maguire and Johnny Evans. That's
Johnny
that's
Evans. So
that's
I was like, just I don't know. Like that was like I didn't really get that. Did Lindelof get injured or is it
No,
just
I think
like
I think it was just like 84th minute, like try so let's yeah, so 84th minute, Garnacho comes on for Anthony. Garnacho went to the left. I think Rashford went to the right, and he and Hoyland were kind of just playing in the same kind of area of the pitch, interchanging between right
mhm.
and false nine. And Johnny Evans came on for Lindelof. And this Johnny Evans thing, basically we let him. He's a Manchester United. He won the Premier League with Manchester United, right? He There's like a feeling of fraternity amongst former players that don't badmouth the club on their way out, like Ronaldo and others, and
Dean
even
Henderson.
Dean Henderson, absolutely, and others in the past that have now like mended fences. But Johnny Evans was like basically told he was between clubs. Leicester released him, and he was basically told you can use the gym. And then it was like, hey, we're kind of light at center back. Why don't you like train with the guys and show them some stuff in preseason? And I was like, hey, we're kind of like our squad is kind of light. Why don't you come to America and kind of play with us? And it's like, hey, like we can't buy anyone. We can't sell Harry Maguire, and we can't buy anyone because it's like one in, one out. So why don't we just sign you, even though you shouldn't really be still at Manchester United? And it's just, it is a problem. The Harry Maguire
He's
thing.
what is he 34?
I thought he was
36?
36. I'll pull him up. He's 35, turning 36. And so, it's not his fault. He just like
Yeah.
he's not he shouldn't be playing Arsenal away. That's
Yeah.
Johnny Evans. Johnny Evans should be playing like
Wycombe.
Reading home. Yeah, Wycombe
Yeah.
home. So that's on him. 89th minute, man. I don't even know what to say about it. Garnacho can come on, and I think this is the difference in Garnacho starting and Garnacho coming on and being such a spark, because he is so fast, he is so good on the ball, so confident, and his finishing is so clinical. What did you think when you saw Garnacho running down the wing?
Yeah, he's just it's again, I think like we've been saying, like it's better coming off the bench and he's just this is the good like Garnacho, like confident and like a little bit arrogant in a good way and just like going at people, but like I can beat this guy. Kind of like it's like how Wan-Bissaka looks at wingers. It's like I can beat this guy. And it's
Yeah.
like, and it's you need that for us, like years of players like just not feeling like both not probably deserving to be in our starting 11, but also not playing with the kind of confidence where they thought that they could beat the other team. And Garnacho thinks he could beat anybody, and it's great. And it's, it almost manifested in a goal. And I still, in my heart, I still think it's a goal. But
Yeah. So it's really hard. And so yeah, so basically Bruno plays the ball to Garnacho. Garnacho looks like he's onside. Gabriel Jesus, I think, looked like he was playing him onside, and Garnacho is so fast, outruns everyone, clinical finish. We're going crazy. Some guy took off his shirt in the bar. I don't know why he did that, but I guess it underlines how excited we were about it. I had tepid excitement because Garnacho looked like he was not fully celebrating.
Yeah.
He looked like he was looking at the linesmen. They weren't calling anything. You see them putting their finger to their earpiece, meaning that they're checking. We get the lines, and it's so hard to do this because of the camera. We never have a straight on view of the last line, so we can't see exactly who's in front of whom. We have the broadcast camera, which is almost it's like at midfield, right?
Yeah,
so it's always at an angle. And so if the defender is closer to you, they're going to look like they're closer to goal. And so it looked to me like he was onside, but then the lines came out, and I'm kind of a believer in the lines, and they called it offside by, I don't know, an inch or two, right?
Yeah, I don't know. Like, if it's inches, it's like,
what are we doing here?
It's like, all right, well, how much of the armpit counts, like, as like the stopping point of the line? Like, how much of, like, I don't know. Like, listen, we've been on the receiving end of like good fortune when it comes to these millimeter offside calls, but like, so I don't want to gripe too much about it, but I don't think that those were correct either. Like like it's like, you could just, if you just looked at it a different way, it could be onside, and that's like not a good way of like dictating who's scoring a goal or not for both sides. Like, if you just like moved your head, but like, now I can see this part of the round of his back, and this part of the round of his back or his armpit does keep him onside. You're like, that's not how you want the offside rule to work.
Yeah, so there is an argument out there, and people have treated this system, this offside VAR system, as kind of foolproof and perfect, and it's really not, because what you're not using, for the most part, I think UEFA does this differently, but the FA for the most part is looking at images and then superimposing lines over the images, like in Photoshop. That's basically what they're doing. And so it's not perfect, because you're having a human find the frame where the person passing the ball, the passer, is last touching the ball. So there's built-in error there,
right? Because the ball is on your foot for, like, to us, indeterminable, but if you're freezing it, there's milliseconds where it's like the ball is still on the foot, and you can just pick a few, like, I don't know.
Absolutely. So there's built-in error at the beginning, and there's built-in error where you draw two of the line. You're drawing a line from the attacking player and the defender. So you're drawing two lines, and there's time error. So the argument for, I think, a lot of people that would agree with this, you make the lines that you're drawing across the pitch bigger. You make them wider, so that accounts for the margin of error. If you make the lines wider, then more times the lines are going to match up exactly. There's going to be overlap in the lines. That would have happened here if the lines were wide. If both of the lines, the defender line and the attacker line, were wider, then they would have overlapped, and it would have been a good goal. So I think there's a good argument for doing that, because there's margin for error, and that kind of that's basically tie goes to the runner. That like accounts the margin for error. All right. Yeah. So goal is called offside. 8 minutes of added time, and then we like it seemed like after that we were pretty deflated. We were defending with Johnny Evans and Harry Maguire. I don't know what more to say about it. I've like watched it back, and Johnny Evans is like clearly. Oh, I should say, before this happened, Højlund, I thought, was fouled in the box. And I've seen replays of it. Gabriel Jesus like wrestled him down to the ground, and they didn't call a penalty. I think that should have been a penalty. And then Declan Rice scored a deflected goal on the 96th or 97th minute. so this is the one where you thought that Onana didn't react well, and in the build up to this, Johnny Evans like certainly got. I was like, why is Declan Rice wide open? Oh, it's because Johnny Evans got taken out in the box. So there was a foul in the build up, not called, and yeah, you had said that you thought Onana didn't play this one perfect.
Yeah, again, like and it's like I get that it's a deflection, but it's still a deflection into like the 1 foot of, and he's there. He's like there. He's in like the right place, and he gets.
Well, he moves out of it. He like jumps.
Yeah, but
he like jumps to the left, like for some reason, and then it puts him off the near post, and it.
But he was still. It wasn't like he was like really far away. Like he got his hand on it. Like I don't know. Like again, if I don't. Okay, I'm not gonna say that because people.
Say it.
Like
say it.
Well,
say
just
it.
like
say De Gea would have saved it.
No, that's not what I'm saying. What I was gonna say is that if De Gea had done that, people would have lost their minds. I'm not saying that I don't think that. I mean, De Gea made mistakes all the time. It just if De Gea had made that mistake, people would have lost their minds. And I still think Onana had he's still a good shot stopper, and his build-up play is important. It's the stuff that we talk. It's not coming out because of the stuff we talked about before with our midfielders not being able to hold the ball, so it's not showing as much as we would like. But I don't think he's a good player. But I think that was bad goalkeeping. Just like I still think, and I have seen replays of the Forest one. That was bad goalkeeping, and it happens. People make mistakes, but I'm just people would have lost their minds, and it's just that always annoys me. You can't change it. People probably think then the people could disagree and say that De Gea would have made a bigger mistake, et cetera, and that's all fine. But it drives me a little crazy when it's
I think people did. I think some people did lose their minds about
really?
It's just who knows. We all live in our little bubbles, and then whatever the Twitter algorithm tells me and Instagram algorithm tells me to look at, that's what I see. And so there was chatter about whether Onana should have saved that. It's hard to give the keeper too much stick for a deflected goal like this was, but and it was in a crowded box. But yeah, I mean, it's certainly valid to say if you get a strong hand on the ball, you got to keep it out. And near post is a bad place to let in a goal, especially because he was there, And I think it was originally off a set piece, and so I feel like the near post was defended, and then some. The set piece broke down, so some time wore on. The players started moving out of the goal to set the line higher, and then the near post was vacated. Whatever, I don't want to talk about it. We gave them another goal, but by attack, we were attacking, trying to chase the game, and this is another insane amount of stoppage time, which I like. I'm not saying I don't like it, but in the 12th minute of 8 minutes of stoppage time, Gabriel Jesus scored on a counter. We lose 3-1. What are your takeaways from this one, Carter? Good loss, moral loss, bad loss.
I still think it should have been. It should have been 2-1. So I think that it may be against the run of play. Maybe we wouldn't have deserved the 3 points, but we made we said our thing, and we think that it was the goal should have stood, which changes how games play out.
Someone on Twitter was arguing, well, then you would have just lost 3-2.
And it's that's
not what happens.
That's not how it works. It never happens that way. It's not like football. It's not it's different. The game's fluid. It's not like you're playing a defense and an offense, right? When you're chasing a game, your defenders are also moving around, and they're not going to be in the best possible defensive position. It's a different type of sport. That's not it's not scripted.
It's nonsensical to say that.
Yeah, they weren't always going to score 3 goals no matter what.
It's not like I'm playing Pac-Man and then I score this many points, and you're playing Pac-Man by yourself and you score that many points, and if I still would have lost even if you gave me another 1,000 points. Is that a good analogy, or is that a horrible analogy? That only counts. Does that one work?
I think that works.
You're just being nice. That's a bad analogy. I'll come up with something better.
I thought that we should have won. Still don't think we played great. I need to see Højlund start a game, I think. And I think that the midfield combination, when we can, needs to be shuffled a little bit. And I'm always going to argue to keep Bruno in. So a combination of Bruno and 2 other midfielders.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
Yeah,
I think that's true. I think that there's a lot of upside for this team. It's gonna be fun to watch. I think that if you're looking for good and bad and everything in between, you're gonna get it again this season with Manchester United. If we can stay like healthy, relatively healthy, if we're gonna have to address center backs in the January transfer window, I think, because Varane and Martinez can't stay healthy now. Like Martinez has had nagging
Martinez
injuries.
needs a breath. He needs a break. He needs a rest.
And how it's hard to. Are you going to play like Ten Hag is not going to play Martinez. He's not going to play Lindelof and Maguire in Champions League. Certainly, probably not in Carabao Cup games. So, I just don't. And he's getting called up for Argentina. It's just like he does need a rest. It's been like after the Winter World Cup last year and the crazy season we played, we need our guys to have some time, especially our center back. So
and we had a long ass preseason too.
Yeah,
like
it was long.
Yeah, it's not the America stuff. It's that we played a billion preseason games.
Yeah, they didn't play all of them, but they did play.
Oh, I know,
they did. They did.
Still like
no, it's and you're training. You're still training.
Yeah.
And you're warming up, and even if you don't come, you're right. All right, so that drops us to 11th in the Premier League. It's very early, but it's valid. It's a valid criticism. I think the bigger thing that you mentioned right as we were coming on was not as much what place we're in, but our goal differential.
Yeah, -2.
-2.
Right at home,
which is 1 worse than Aston Villa. It's 2 worse than Nottingham Forest. And it's 3 worse than Crystal Palace. Those are the silly ones. And then 11 worse goal differential than Man City, who's leading the league. Man City won. Tottenham been pretty strong to start out in second place. Liverpool have been, they've been kind of like new typical Liverpool.
Their midfield looks so good.
Yeah.
They look so good. I was watching
no defenders, just like
this is the thing. This is the thing that always drives us crazy, right? Jurgen Klopp was like, "Hey, our midfield sucks ass. Go get me some midfielders." And they're like, "Okay," and they got him 4 midfielders. It's like, that are great. It's just so frustrating.
Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely true. I'm obviously very jealous at it. I like, so. You and I have different thoughts about McAllister. I really like McAllister. I
still think that he's good. I just don't think he's like the best midfielder in the world. But
I don't think that either.
No, you said it. Come on.
Yeah, you just hate him because he's on Argentina, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I actually think that he seems like a regular dude with a creepy laugh. But
does he have a creepy laugh?
You haven't heard McAllister laugh?
No.
Oh, dude, yeah, look that up. That's like, it's horrible. It's horrible. And he's this little tiny smile. It's weird. It's weird.
Yeah. So they're solid, and like obviously they got Endo because they didn't think they were going to be able to bring in anyone else. They got Gravenberch also, which
is insane.
Yeah, just like sprinkled on top, and that's annoying. Yeah. And then Gakpo plays 10 sometimes also, he's a forward, but he'll play 10 also. So I don't know. They're solid. I'm concerned about that. Chelsea has a ton of midfielders that I wanted, which I'm annoyed by. And, we have midfielders that I wanted also. I wanted Amrabat. I'm reserving judgment because I think he's not people think he's perfect because they saw him like dominate with Morocco in the World Cup and saw him like take out Kylian Mbappe, caught up to Mbappe, but he's not a perfect player. He's a great passer, and so we'll see about that. But let's take just a couple minutes. We've been going a little long. Let's take a couple minutes just to go quickly through the outgoings and incomings, because now that the transfer window is closed, so maybe let's do like green light, yellow light, or as the Brits would say, amber light, red light for incomings and outgoings, whether you thought it was good business, bad business, or remains to be seen. Right.
Red light. The only real red light is Johnny Evans, which almost makes me
I'm
sad.
gonna go through each one.
Okay.
We're gonna do it
Gotcha.
like a segment. We're gonna do like a real like adult like segment. All right, Rasmus Højlund from Atalanta, 75 million. I'm gonna do fees in euros because that's what I have open now. So 75 million euros.
Yellow. It's a lot of money for someone who's only scored 9 goals in a top 5 league.
What is that color that's between yellow and green? Is that ochre?
I don't know. I have no idea.
All right, I'll go ochre for that. Mason Mount, 64 million midfielder from Chelsea, 24 years old.
Green light. Green light.
For sure. I think I'm gonna go.
It fits the system well.
I think I'm gonna go ochre also. I like, and I know I'm cheating, but by telling you it's green light, yellow light, red light, and then and I don't even, I'll have to look up if ochre is even what I think it is, if it's a like greenish yellow color. All right, Andre Onana from Inter, 52 million.
Green light. It's like I know it's like I know it's going to be a green light. Like even if I'm complaining right now, I think he's going to come good.
Yeah, I think I also agree that it is absolute green light, and I'm being told that it's chartreuse is the color I was looking for. That's the greenish yellow, and it's a liquor also.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, the color is named after the liquor.
Oh, is that true?
I think so. I think it's the only one where it's like named after the thing.
All right.
Or at least it's a piece of like alcohol lore that some people always told me. So it can be completely made up.
No, we're just gonna not fact check that and let that go. All right. Sofian Amrabat, 10 million loan fee. Like that's euros. It's gonna if we have an option to buy him at I think the buy clause is in June, but basically we got a good deal on him when we needed a good deal because we didn't have much space in the FFP, according to the club. And 2 clubs, Fulham and Nottingham Forest, offered more money to Fiorentina than we will end up paying if we end up buying him. We do have a buy clause. And so Sofian Amrabat, Moroccan international, defensive midfielder from Fiorentina. What do we think about this guy?
Green light. Need.
Green light, absolutely need. And it was like the best business that we did. Like maybe we could have gotten him in sooner, but we underpay. It's the only player I've ever remember us underpaying for because and I want to do like I want to wrap up soon, but I always forget to mention this. I say it in the chat all the time, but everybody talks about like how they can't sell these players, they can't buy these players. Everyone has been like complaining for years about that. That's because our club was a mess. We like had new managers every year. People didn't like our managers. That we had old players that were with like Jose Mourinho, the guys that Jose Mourinho didn't want. And then Jose Mourinho started getting guys in, he was fired. And then we had Ole, the club was like Ronaldo, dressing room. Players didn't want to come to that mess, even though it was Manchester United, famous shirt, Old Trafford, the badge, all of that. Players didn't want to come. Erik ten Hag has made it an environment where players outperform what, he's turned around Wan-Bissaka, like out of nowhere, turned around Luke Shaw. Like players are now seeing the value and that it's the beginning of our project. So it's so much easier to do business now where players are empowered and they can make a mess and sit out. And in this era of player empowerment, you can do business if you are an attractive destination. That's what happened with Sofian Amrabat. It wasn't like the guys, Murtaugh and Richard Arnold, got better at business. It had nothing. Hargreaves, they didn't get better at business. It's just a player that said, I'm only going to Manchester United. So they had other clubs swooping in for Amrabat. Amrabat was like, no, I only want to go play with Ten Hag. So that's how you get. It's not like good business or bad. It's like if a player's willing to make a mess, and that's what we were all hoping that Kane would do. He didn't do it, and now he's like, wearing lederhosen. So like have fun, Harry. But I think that all of us need to think about, all of us in the entire that watch the sport need to start thinking about sports business differently, because it's essentially whether the player wants to or not. That determines how good the deal is going to be, right?
Yeah, for sure. I don't think there's even a question about it.
Yeah, I think that like people, I just see this like debate online all the time about like, is your team doing good business or bad business? And it's basically like you can do good business if the player wants to come there, and he's saying like, I'll only want to go there.
I remember when I watched when I used to watch the Football Terrace, because that guy he like worked at a bank, and if somebody like would like super chat, like ask them a question and they mention the word net spin, he's like, I'm not responding to that. Net spin's not a real thing. And like he always just like dismissed it. So like when we talk about business, it's just like it's really is just like, hey, does this place, like, you know, we saw it with Di Maria, right? Which I think was like annoying and stupid, but like, you know, like I don't live in Manchester anymore. It's like, okay, well, like if it can be that simple, then getting players who want to be there can also be that simple by just having a good environment and like showing players that they have a good, that they're coming into a good environment.
You need to have a good environment. You need to basically promise that you're going to put them in positions to succeed and give them chances to get into the squad. And I think Ten Hag has showed that. You know, we'll talk about one player in just a couple of minutes. We should touch on before we say goodbye. All right, Altay Bayindir from Fenerbahce, backup goalkeeper, €5 million.
Green light. Who cares?
I'm going to say yellow light. I think you'll switch to yellow light when I bring up this guy's name, because we let go of Matty Kovar.
Oh yeah.
I thought like should have been our backup keeper.
Yeah.
He was in the Czech league. He was the best goalkeeper on the best team in the Czech league, and then he looked pretty good in preseason. We don't know anything because we're not entitled to like seeing all the trainings, whatever. But it almost seems like this guy is the same level as Matty Kovar, and Matty Kovar would have loved to stay at Manchester United, but he's outgoing. So
yeah, I mean, like the whole bit of business, I guess I would do yellow light.
But Altay Bayindir
but by himself, it's like all right,
fine.
Got somebody because we sold somebody for no reason, so at least we replaced him, I guess. Like
Johnny Evans, free transfer, basically. It was what we described. Like we let him use the gym, and then now he's basically like the janitor that solved the formula on the chalkboard.
Maybe I think like a yellow, maybe not a red light, maybe a yellow light, because there is value and somebody who played for Sir Alex and like won trophies and all that. So there's some value there. We thought we were going to get that value with Ronaldo. But Johnny Evans is not Cristiano Ronaldo, so I don't think he's gonna destroy the dressing room. So who knows? Maybe. But this is the kind of thing where I'm like, oh, like I know that Will Fish is playing like, you know, in a division where he's the starting center back, but it's like, oh, Will Fish could be there, be with around these people that like won trophy, whatever. But yeah, so a yellow light, because I do think there is actual value in that.
Yeah, you know, I'll go ahead and say chartreuse. We need center backs, and we've lost two center back. You know, basically lost two center backs. Thought we are gonna be able to replace, you know, get someone in for Maguire. Didn't happen, and so like free transfer guy. You know, he's got experience. He's a championship level player at this point. Yeah. But like, we need bodies. Sergio Reguilon from Tottenham. A quick loan to make up for the fact that Luke Shaw has gone down for an injury that might keep him out till November.
Yellow light. I think that Sergio Reguilon is like awful. I think he's like not a good player. Do I think that he would have been better or worse than Cucurella? I don't know. I also do not like Cucurella, but I also know that we needed an available player. There's a reason that Reguilon is an available player, but we did need one. So it's sensible in the, like, you know, that it's a loan and that, you know, it's filling a void. Because Malatia is hurt too. So it's like, like I don't think that Reguilon's like a better player than Malatia is, but we don't have Malatia. So
I agree. I think they're probably some, like, obviously Malacia has much more upside than Reguilon, but I think Reguilon like is a necessary. It was a necessary thing. I preferred Cucurella. I do rate Cucurella. I was happy. Chelsea was doing some funny business, and I was happy to put an L on Chelsea. They've dominated the transfer window, and they've been vindicated for their model, which is amortizing contracts over many years, which is now like illegal to do in the Premier League, and spending tons of money and then selling tons of money to Saudi Arabia who has some like nefarious connections to the ownership group at Chelsea. So Chelsea has been really, like all the people are saying like Americans shouldn't own teams, blah, blah, blah. Like Todd Bowley has spent like hundreds of millions of dollars, like a billion, talk about net spend, like $1 billion net spend. But they've been able to sell. So I'm glad that we didn't spend $4 or $5 million on a loan for Cucurella and get him, and he was on high wages, and get them off the books. All right. Real quick. Dean Henderson sold $17.5 million to Crystal Palace.
Green light, get him out of here.
Me too. Good fee. Anthony Elanga, 17.5 million euro to Nottingham Forest.
I think green, because the fee is good. I would like to keep him, but
he scored for Nottingham Forest.
He's playing great for Forest, so it's like,
well, he's kind of coming on,
Yeah, but
he's
what he did for us,
good.
basically.
Yeah,
so
exactly. Yeah. All right, Fred to Fenerbahce in the Turkish Super League, 9.7 million euro.
Yellow because of the fee. I would have liked more about it. I don't really miss Fred that much. But
me neither. Yeah, I 100% agree. Matty Kovar, 23-year-old goalkeeper, Czech international, sold him Bayer Leverkusen for 5 million euro.
Red, bad fee. Could have kept him.
Agree.
He looks good.
Yep. Alex Telles, 4.6 million. We're the only team that sold a player to Al Nassr for less than 10 million. We sold Alex Telles to Al Nassr in Saudi Arabia for 4.6 million euro.
It's green just because we need to get him off the books, and no one was going to pay more than that. Alex Telles was awful.
I agree. Zidane Iqbal, Utrecht in the Eredivisie, 1 million euro. He's got like lots of future sell-on clauses so that we get money if he turns to be a great player, whatever.
Yeah. I'm always gonna say yellow lights or mostly gonna say yellow lights on it because like I like keeping academy.
You want to hang on to all the kids.
Yeah. So yellow. I thought that he looked okay, but
all right. And then there are 3 that were basically cut or not extended, and they are currently without a club. That's De Gea, Axel Tuanzebe, and Phil Jones.
Except for Phil Jones needed to be cut. So that's a green light. Tuanzebe I thought was not very good, so green light. De Gea, it would have been nice to actually sell De Gea, but it looks like De Gea is just going to take a year off or take a few months off.
He put out video of him like training, which I was surprised by. And he's wearing a Kevin Durant shirt, and it was kind of funny. Kevin Durant jersey, I should say. So that was kind of funny. So I thought the same as you. I think he might. I think he's going to find a team in January. And then all right. So there's another class we can do all together. Tatum Mengi went on. He was sold to Luton, right? And then Brandon Williams and Alvaro Fernandez both went on loan. Brandon Williams to Ipswich and Alvaro Fernandez to Granada in La Liga.
I think the Alvaro Fernandez is a green light. That's good for him. I think Brandon Williams is red because we should have kept him for bodies so he don't have to play, people out of position. But
I switched those two for me. I think that I think that we should have kept Alvaro Fernandez and sent Brandon Williams. I think Brandon Williams has gotten enough run out that I think that he's not enough of a force to play left back. I like him. He seems like a championship player to me. I think Alvaro Fernandez has upside, 2 years younger.
I hear that.
Faster. Yeah. So, but and we need a left back. So it's I feel like these loans also happened before Shaw got injured.
Yeah. But like that's stuff that's like injuries can happen anytime, whatever.
Yeah.
And Mengi didn't look like he was ever gonna break into the team.
All right, and then the one that I've been avoiding. So this is just kind of a funny thing that I didn't realize until this year, that the transfer window closes for different leagues at different times. So the English so it's incomings, right? Is the transfer deadline. So you can only register incomings. It was like before, I think 6 p.m. on Friday, the 31st or the September 1st, whatever. But La Liga had another like 6 hours. Theirs closed at midnight. So transfer window closed. Mason Greenwood hadn't gone anywhere, and I was like, oh, I guess like we're just gonna pay him to not play. And then we find out late that we worked out a deal with Getafe, a La Liga team. Their transfer window hadn't yet closed, and so he is now on loan to Getafe.
Yeah, would have preferred just an outright sale, but green light, get him out of here. He's a garbage person.
Yeah, I think I agree with all of that. There's a Turkish. There's I think Turkey and another league still have open transfer windows, so there's still hope for like Donny Van de Beek to maybe find another club. And I can't remember the other league that there's like still a possibility of them finding another home, maybe on loan or maybe a sale. But we pretty much can't get any more. Well, we definitely can't get any more incomings. Saudi Arabia also have an extended transfer window. So, and Eric Bailly, I guess, is still on the books. All right, last thing, let's do it real quick. I know you got to go run errands. Jadon Sancho was not selected for the squad, meaning he wasn't even on the bench. And Sancho had a lot of run out at false nine in the preseason. It looked like because of our tenuous striker situation and attacking situation, and the fact that Sancho wasn't going to get in the team on the right because he wasn't good enough, wasn't going to get in the team on the left because he'd be behind Rashford and Garnacho on the left. The only place you could play him is up the middle. He seemed pretty decent. And then it turns out that Ten Hag doesn't pick him. He says afterwards in the press conference that he didn't pick him because his levels in training weren't up to the standard that he expects from his players. We don't know if that means he was late or wasn't working hard enough or wasn't trying hard enough. We don't know what that means. But Sancho has continuously had mental health type issues, psychological issues, fitness issues, timing issues. Like this happened at Dortmund when he's at Dortmund. He was disciplined for showing up late to training or not showing up to training multiple times. Last year, he got basically sent to a like boot camp in the middle of the season for 3 months with a personal trainer and a psychologist, and came back and kind of didn't do much after he came back. And then now it's more of the same. Sancho responded to that by saying, basically, the manager's lying. Don't believe what you read. I've been great, and I'll do anything for the badge. And so that has now blown up into a huge thing because Sancho is a big name. We spent a lot of money on him from Dortmund, and it's Manchester United. So this is like turned into an Oppenheimer level explosion.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why you respond. Like that's an insane thing to do. Like, why would he lie? Like, he wants to win games. Like, why would he lie? Like, it doesn't make any sense. I keep thinking about that video from when Sancho was at City. And like it was like one of the youth games, and he got taken off, and he like threw like a huge fit like next to other players. And it was like, I don't know. He seems like a baby, and it's not good for us at all.
Yeah,
to have these problems again.
I think it's bad. I think it's really bad. It's bad juju. I also think that Sancho is like friends with a lot of the players that we want to perform well and like Ten Hag, including Rashford. And so I feel like this is like trouble brewing. Rashford took well to being disciplined for being late, came on, scored. He responded well. Garnacho, the same. By contrast, Ronaldo didn't take well to being disciplined, and I'm glad that he's gone. So this like kind of remains to be seen thing.
We have to see what Ten Hag does with it. I mean, I'd be surprised if he plays next week or whatever next game.
It's hard to imagine that's going to happen. Like you said, it's hard to imagine, but there's a lot of time, and they're going to be together because obviously he didn't get called up for the English team. And so we've got, just catching people up. We got 2 weeks off basically for the international window. We've got a lot of players going out in international duty, which is annoying. But there is some time for some of the players to get healthy, which is good. We're going to come back with Brighton on September 16th. So that's going to be our next match. And we're going to have to do like a remote pod. I guess we always do remote pods, but I'm gonna be at Old Trafford with my dad.
Oh,
It's
nice.
it's gonna be fun. It's my dad's first time going to Old Trafford, and he started getting into the sport a little bit, which I've been glad to see. So I'm excited to take him there and show him what's good, show him the theater of dreams.
Awesome.
Yeah. So with that, you've been listening to the Red Devils Advocate. This is the official podcast of the Miami Red Devils. This musical performance you're hearing right now was written and composed and performed by yours truly. Well, I don't know who the truly is, but it's Carter.
Yours truly.
Yes, there we go. Thank you for jumping in there. Special production assistants, and thank you to Carla and Elizabeth. Thank you for listening. Come on, United.
Come on, United.